to share some fun, spooky Halloween stories with you. Our first one is called The Red Lips. You might want to have mom and dad with you in case you need to hide your head. All right. Once there was a girl named Jenny who was very excited about moving to a new house. She was going to have her very own room for the first time in her whole life. Jenny picked a first floor bedroom way at the back of the house by the old oak tree. She loved looking out her window at the tree. The first night in her new house, her parents went to bed kind of early. They'd been moving furniture and boxes, and they were pretty tired. But Jenny stayed up for a while, putting all of her things in just the right spot. She wanted to make her very own room very special. It really was starting to look pretty good. She loved horses, and she'd hung pictures of them over her bed. She secretly hoped that she'd get a horse for her birthday, which was coming up in a couple of weeks. So finally satisfied with all her decorating, she put on her pajamas, she brushed her teeth, and she went to bed. She smiled to herself as she turned off the light. She had her own room. She was in her room in the dark all by herself when she heard on the window. Jenny went to the window to see what was there. She looked outside to see a woman with long, wild black hair, a pale white face, long, bony fingers with long, red fingernails and red lips. The woman cried out,
"Jenny, do you know what I do with my long red fingernails and these red lips?"
"No," cried Jenny, and she slammed the window shut. She jumped into her bed and she pulled the covers over her head. She didn't sleep at all that night. The next night she went to bed and she was exhausted. But again she heard the on her window, and again the same woman was there.
"Jenny, do you know what I do with these long red fingernails and these red lips?"
"No," yelled Jenny, and she slammed the window shut. And this time she crawled under her bed and spent the night there shivering until she finally fell asleep. The next night when she went to bed, she heard the on her window.
"Jenny, do you know what I do with these long red fingernails and these red lips?"
Again, Jenny slammed the window shut, and this time she ran to her closet and shut the door tight, and she listened for that awful voice all night long. The next night, when she went to bed, she put her pillow over her head, but still she could hear the at the window.
"Jenny, do you know what I do with these long red fingernails and these red lips?"
Well, Jenny was tired. She was upset. She needed to get some sleep. So she opened up the window and she yelled, "What? What? Every night you say, Jenny, oh, do you know what I can do with these long red fingernails and these red lips?" "Well, I don't. I don't know. I don't know and I don't care. Answer the question yourself. What do you do with your long red fingernails and those red lips?" The woman looked at Jenny. She smiled hideously, and slowly she reached up with one of her long, red fingernails, and she reached for her big, red lips, and she went. I hope you had fun with that story. I hope you were a little bit scared, but I hope you laughed a lot. See you for the next one. Hey guys, are you ready for spooky, scary, funny story number 2? This one is called The Ghost on Petersons Farm. Gordy couldn't believe his luck. He'd just been thumbing through the farmer's almanac and out dropped this piece of paper. As soon as he got a look at it, Gordy knew what it was. There was Willow Creek and a piece of road that ran by Cranberry Hill. And there was a bit of the West Badger Lake over here. And down in the corner was a black X that looked just like this. It had to be, you're right, a treasure map. And that X was right where old Holger Peterson's farm used to be. Old Holger probably buried his money there, made this map, hid it in the book, and then up and died before he could tell anybody about it. So nobody knew about the treasure out there on Peterson's farm, except Gordy. Well, that same night, Gordy took a shovel and he went out to the abandoned farm. It was dark that night, darker than a blind rat in a root cellar. But Gordy was happy about that because nobody was likely to see what he was up to. He decided to start looking out by the barn. Well, the barn's right over here. And he started to dig a hole after he took his coat off, and the hole was right here near the southeast corner. He'd been working for a while when he heard a mournful moaning and groaning sound. Ooh. He stopped digging and listened. Nothing. Just my imagination, he said to himself. But a while later, he heard it again. Ooh. Well, that got Gordy thinking about all the stories he'd heard about how folks had seen old Holger's ghost out on the farm some evenings doing the chores. I'm not letting no ghost keep me from my treasure, he said to himself. And he got out of the hole and he got himself a big stick. He shook the stick at the dark and he hollered out, "Listen to me, ghost. You come moaning around here, I'm going to whop you with this stick." And he went back to digging. Well, he got down about 1.5 feet on that southeast hole when he decided that must not be the right spot. So he moved over and he started digging on the northeast corner. He just started digging that hole when he heard it again. That low, mournful, He stopped digging. The noise stopped. He started digging again. There it was again. Gordy looked up. Right then the clouds kind of moved off and a crescent moon popped up. It came peeking out, so by the light of that thin moon, Gordy saw the dark shape of Holger Peterson's ghost coming toward him across the dark field. Well, Gordy forgot all about whopping that ghost. He grabbed up his stick and he ran straight into the tool shed that was right here at the end of the barn. He slammed the door behind himself. He peeked out of the knothole that was right here. He saw that the ghost was walking up and down waiting for him to come out. And all the time it was moaning, After a while, the ghost wandered off. Gordy waited some time, and when the ghost didn't come back, he picked up his stick, opened the door, and sidled out. He'd only gone a step or two when the ghost was right behind him. Gordy dropped his stick and dashed right back into the tool shed. He found himself another knothole to look out. He glued his eye to it all night long. The ghost wandered off again, but Gordy stayed put this time. Shoo. But then finally, the sun came poking over the corner of the barn. And only then did Gordy open the tool shed door and venture out. He grabbed his stick and he headed south at a dead run. He is running like crazy. But he didn't even turn around once to see if Holger Peterson's ghost was coming after him. But if he had turned around, he would have seen the ghost there, all right, standing in the meadow, chewing on her cud. I hope you enjoyed our spooky, scary story. Stick around for some more. Hey guys, I'm back to share our spooky, scary stories with you. These are the shortest scary stories in the world. A boy sat down on a park bench next to an old woman. She turned to him and asked, "Do you believe in ghosts?" "No," said the boy. "Well, I do," said the woman as she disappeared. That was a pretty short story, wasn't it? Spooky. A man woke in the middle of the night, and terrified, he reached for a flashlight. It was placed in his hand. The last person on earth was alone in his house. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Ooh, if you were alone, you were the last person alive. How could there be a knock on the door? Spooky, scary stories. All right. I see we have our mummy behind us. This is a story called The Mummy. And it's told by a man who's working late at the St. Louis Art Museum. One night, as I was closing up the mummy exhibit, the guard was called away. I promised not to touch anything and to lock up when I was finished. As I was about to lock the door, I noticed a piece of the white mummy wrapping coming loose, and I reached over to tuck it back in place. Suddenly, the mummy sat up and reached toward me. I jumped and backed away, but he stood up and began to follow me. I ran out the door, and he was there. I ran down the hall, and he was there. I ran over to the closet, he was there. Unlike our mummy, who, mummies just lay there. In a final desperate attempt to get away, I crouched down underneath the staircase. I was trapped. I had nowhere else to go and covered my head with my trembling hands. There, under the staircase, as the mummy slowly approached me, I could hear him dragging his long, wrapped legs behind him. Slowly, he reached out toward me and touched my arm and said, "Tag, you're it." Ah! The blood-covered vampire, a.k.a. the bloody vampire. The vampire went home to his castle one night, flying in through the window to find a bunch of vampires waiting for him. When they saw the blood on his face, they began to get thirsty and asked, "Where did you find the blood?" He answered, "I can't tell you, it's too embarrassing." The other vampire said, "Please tell us. We are so thirsty." The vampire said, "Okay, follow me." He led them into the dark night sky, and suddenly, off in the distance, there was a big, dark tower. The vampire asked, "Do you see the tower?" The other vampires answered, "Yes, we do." "Well, I didn't." Oh, these are so hokey. I love it. Our last one, and I hope you've enjoyed our spooky, scary stories. This one is called Stop the Coffin, and it's from Favorite Scary Stories of American Children. Once upon a time, a long time ago, there was a country boy who went to town to see the sights. He didn't have much money, so he couldn't stay in a hotel. He decided to sleep where no one would bother him. Guess where he went to sleep? In the cemetery. In the middle of the night, he woke up when something bumped him on the foot. He looked up, and there was a shiny rosewood coffin. He got up and moved. The coffin moved too. He moved a little further. The coffin moved a little further. He got up and started to run. The coffin floated in the air and started to follow him. He ran out of the gate, out of the graveyard. The coffin followed him. He ran across the flower bed, trampling the flowers. The coffin came too. He ran through the poultry yard and scared all the chickens. The coffin scared them too. He ran through the park and knocked over a picnic table. The coffin knocked over one too. He ran through the stable and scared all the horses. The coffin scared the horses too. He ran through the grocery store and pushed over the Cracker Barrel. You got it. The coffin pushed over one too. He jumped through the back window and broke the window out. The coffin broke a window out too. He ran into the drugstore, and there it all ended. He opened a box and ate some cough drops and stopped the coffin. Happy Halloween!